5 minutes past 8. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, you've seen that report, and that's what we turn our attention to today on the program. Well, joined by Mr. James Entwistle, U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Thank you. I'm sure there must have been a lot of other options in terms of what to do, what to provide. Why did you choose this?
Well, the U.S. and Nigeria have had a strong military relationship for decades. That remains the case today. I can't think of a more tangible sign of that relationship than this beautiful ship that sailed into Lagos on Friday. We believe that by strengthening your naval capacity, it's in our joint interest because it will improve security in the Gulf of Guinea, which is important for Nigeria, for all of the neighboring African states, but also important for the rest of the world whose ships come through these sea lanes and so on. So we saw it as a tangible sign in this partnership that Nigeria and the United States have enjoyed for so many years.
Well, what do you say to those who thought that perhaps if they had chosen to supply maybe arms, it would have addressed the immediate need, fighting insurgents in the country?
Look, let me give it to you straight. As the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, as President Obama's personal representative to this country, this idea that there's an arms embargo or that somehow we've cut you off is nonsense. No country, no partner is doing more to support Nigeria in its fight against terror right now. We can't always talk about the details in public, but I can assure you that we're with you every step of the way. And I don't think it's a choice between helping with maritime security or helping in the Northeast. Both of these are important. Both of our countries can do both at the same time.
Well, I do know that I'm sure you're privy to the conversation that has gone on in terms of, what exactly they need and, where exactly they want to be supported and where they think that they're not getting support. Nigeria's ambassador to the United States has also been speaking very, very clearly in terms of, what Nigeria needs from the U.S. and has not been able to get. Do you have anything to say in terms of that, especially concerning helicopters?
I thought the comments from your ambassador in Washington, frankly, they were disappointing because he knows better. We have a number of discussions underway right now for various pieces of equipment in the air, on the ground, armored personnel carriers. We share information every day with your Army that they can use operationally. I can't go into the details of that. So again, the notion that we've cut you off is nonsense. Yes, when we transfer or consider transferring arms to any country by law, by U.S. law, there's a process that we have to go through. We look at, does this make sense for the country? Are there human rights considerations? All of these things. And sometimes the answer is no. Much more often the answer is yes. That you're right, there was the case of the Cobra helicopters where the answer after careful deliberation was no. But we have a number of other things in the pipeline. So that's water under the bridge. Let's focus on the present and the future, and the cooperation is excellent.
Why was it a no?
I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it was the process that I just outlined of factoring all these things in together. But there are a number of other air options that are under discussion right now. So, but the idea that we've cut you off or there's an arms embargo has never been true, and quite frankly, I'm disappointed to see that keep getting repeated when people know it's not true.
Maybe because there was some form of silence from your own end for a long time, because when the news broke, a lot of people were surprised at what's happening between Nigeria and the United States.
I don't think I've ever been accused of being silent. We've always been out there. But I think we're moving forward. We have good relations with the Air Force, obviously with the Navy, with the Army. At the working level, we're in touch every day, working together on these things.
Scale of preference, that's what I'm looking at here, because NNS Thunder was the first one before the Okpa Banner. I'm trying to get that. That's the second one. And where we have the battle now is not around the waters. So one would have thought that you should have been able to show your friendship to the Nigerian people by giving them what they truly need at this time.
But I've already answered that question. We can do both at the same time. We are doing both at the same time. We can support you in the Northeast. We can support you with your broad security challenges. We can also help on maritime security. I don't understand why this has to be an either-or situation. Late last year, when I had the privilege of presenting my credentials to President Jonathan, and we had a chat afterwards, the first thing I said to him was, Mr. President, let me be clear. The United States wants Nigeria to win its war on terror, and we stand ready to help you in every appropriate way. That is as true today as it was then.
Well, you do know that one of the fallouts of that was the Nigerian government requesting the training, being given by the U.S. military to support the operations of Nigerian troops here was stopped, as it were. I think it was the United States that made that a little public, saying that they regretted that they had to stop this.
We did regret it.
Has it resumed then?
No, it hasn't. We were ready at the request of your government to train one of your battalions up to a world-class standard. We brought in the best military trainers in the world, but the agreement with your government was we will provide the trainers. In order to do this properly, your Army will provide the equipment needed to do this training, a partnership. We're doing this together. It's not something we're doing for you, it's something we're doing together. Training started. Sadly, it got to the point where we had to stop because the equipment wasn't available. And after several weeks of waiting, we couldn't keep the trainers here. And your government decided to end the training. I don't want to, this is water under the bridge. I don't want to rehash all this. But I say this with great regret. It was a tremendous opportunity to train a world-class battalion. Unfortunately, it stopped at the request of your government. But this doesn't have to derail our cooperation, for whatever the reasons were for that. We continue to move forward, as I've said, every day. Could we do training again in the future? Sure, anything's possible. But we'd have to talk about the details very carefully at the beginning so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again.
So would you say or agree with some of those who think that U.S.-Nigeria relations at the moment seems to be experiencing some challenges?
I don't think so. I mean, yes, look, when you have a friend, do you agree with them all the time? Isn't the nature of friendship is that even when you have a bad patch, you keep talking, you keep the relationship going, you keep moving forward together? If you have a friendship where you always agree about everything, that would be a pretty dull friendship, wouldn't it? I think we're in good shape, big picture. The fundamentals of our relationship, in my opinion, couldn't be better.
Would you say
think about all the other aspects of our relationship: trade, investment, health, education. We have a broad, rich, deep relationship. One of the best I've ever been involved in.
And you've been really going around. Once you were in a chopper around the Niger Delta, and you commented on oil theft, that these are visible things that people can actually see.
Right.
What does that mean to you when we talk about the fight against those who steal crude in Nigeria and take them out?
Well, I would think that the Opabana that we've just delivered, that should help. That should make it more difficult for the people who are stealing oil to get it out to ships and things like that. We see this as part of the package of strengthening maritime security, which, among other things, can strengthen the fight against oil bunkering.
Would you say this is an attempt to mend a bad patch?
What is an attempt to?
The Okabana.
No. I mean, the Opabana has been in the works for several years. We didn't just rush it out here because we're in a bad patch. It's been a deliberate decision several years ago because of the strength of our relationship.
Does the U.S. have human rights issues or questions with Nigeria or her military?
Over the years, there have been concerns expressed not by us, but by many Nigerians, by civil society, by human rights groups, about things such as the conduct of the Army in the Northeast in terms of treatment of the civilian population. You guys have reported that. We've seen it in many newspapers. And we work with your Army on these issues. I'm not a military guy, but it seems to me that fighting an enemy that enmeshes itself with the civilian population and doesn't care how many civilians are killed, fighting an enemy like that is very, very difficult because you have to do it in a way where you keep the civilian population on your side. And we've brought in, from time to time, people who've had experience with this in Iraq and Afghanistan to share our experiences about how to go about this. Sometimes the choice is presented that either you can fight terrorism or you can protect human rights. I don't think you have to choose one or the other. Our experience is that protecting human rights and protecting the civilian population strengthen your counterterrorism effort. It makes it stronger. So I think that's a false choice that I hear quite often. The U.S. focuses on human rights instead of fighting terror. That's not. You do both at the same time, and it makes the anti-terror effort much stronger in our experience.
What can you tell us about the U.S.'s role? Because at the time that the girls were kidnapped in Chibok, there was this international outcry. Right. Lots of countries came in, said they were going to contribute troops, intelligence, whichever way they said they were going to assist. What can you tell us about the U.S.'s role with respect to bring it back to girls?
The equipment transfers, several possibilities that I mentioned are on the table. We're working those every day. We remain open to training possibilities. And the intelligence sharing that I talked about, or that was mentioned back then, continues without going into the details. It's active. It's a live time sharing of information and that kind of thing. So it may not be in the headlines anymore, but our support is completely solid.